Okay, so as I was saying, so my grandpa comes in, my shot's messed up because of the shoot away machine. It's make me shoot square. My dad tells me to do the exact wrong thing. And he tells me to do the exact thing that opposite of what I did when I was the best shooter in the country. And with the opposite of what best shooters do. And also I'm not gonna go into details because I want to make sure it's sync, but you cannot shoot correctly picking the ball off of a rack. You can't do what great shooters do. So I'm shooting wrong, it's messing up my shot. So then my grandpa comes in, and my grandpa's like, my grandpa's from Kauai, so he never lived with me. He never knew how good of a player I was. He just comes in and he just says, oh, he sees a conflict between my dad and me. My dad's out in the backyard. Ryan, you're shooting square. What's wrong with you? Shoot sideways. Here, just do this. And then I'm like, I'm trying, Dad. Like, let me just shoot. And I'm just trying to shoot, but because I'm picking the ball off the racks, make me shoot wrong. And then my dad gets frustrated. He goes inside. I give up. You suck. But he's also telling me to do the wrong thing. And then so I go in and I'm like, Dad, come on, please help. And my dad's like, no, I give up. You fucking suck. Ask me again. I'm going to kick your ass. Dad, I need your help, man. Because my dad helped me my whole life. And I didn't know what was wrong with my shot because I was always unconscious. And that's why I was such a good shooter. If it wasn't for the shoot away machine, none of this would have happened. If it wasn't for my dad telling me to do the wrong thing with my shot, none of this would have happened. So then, but, I felt like I needed my dad because I was always unconscious. That's why I was so good. So I'm like, Dad, come on. And then my dad would beat me up. Then my grandpa comes in. My grandpa's like, oh, this is completely normal. What Ryan really wants is independence. This is completely natural. It happens all the time. My grandpa's a psychologist. He's like existential med psychiatrist. But his whole thing, existential med psychiatry, its whole thing is like, be independent, be self-reliant, and never blame anybody. You're responsible for everything. You create your... my grandpa would tone this down a little bit because my grandpa tried to be rational and mix new age with rational. But in existential med psychiatry, you create reality. You are manifesting your reality. So my grandpa's like, he's trying to tell me like, his whole thing is like, yeah, you create everything. You're responsible for everything. So the most important thing is don't be reliant on anybody. Just be completely independent. And, that's the most important thing. Because if you're, my grandpa's whole thing was like, be independent, be self-reliant. But I always saw him as a white supremacist because because he was always against welfare. Like he's against welfare and stuff. Because he's like, yeah, that enables people. And welfare, it can create dependencies. And then that creates ally-enemy software where if they do what you want them to do, then they're your ally. And if they don't, then you're their enemy. And that is dualistic. And that is self-confirmatory. And there is no self. And you have to transcend the self. And the best way to transcend the self is to be independent and expand your awareness and blah, blah, blah. So my grandpa, this whole thing was like, what Ryan really wants is independence. But the fact of the matter was I needed help. My dad messed up my shot and I didn't know how to fix it. And I didn't know it was a shoot away machine that was messing it up. I needed help. And I needed a little bit of love and compassion. But then my mom and dad hear, oh, right, that's what Ryan really wants is independence. Okay, get him out of our lives. Get him out of our lives. Get him out. Because they gave up on me. They abandoned me when I needed them the most. They abandoned me. So I needed my dad's help. He's the one who messed up my shot with the shoot away machine. He's the one who told me to do the wrong thing. And now I need his help. For the first time in my life, I really need my mom and dad. But then my grandpa comes in and my grandpa's like, oh, what Ryan really wants is independence. So then my mom and dad kicked me out of the house. So then I'm out of the house. And I'm living with my grandpa. And my grandpa's teaching me his metapsychiatry. And in my mind, like the whole time as he's teaching me, I'm thinking like my grandpa's just a white supremacist Nazi. Like that's all it seemed to me. I always saw spirituality as white supremacy. And, he kind of believed in Jesus and believed that Jesus did magic and stuff. And I didn't, and I just thought that Jesus was white supremacy and made up. And I was a communist Marxist. And I was always anti-white my whole life. So, man, maybe my grandpa's right. Maybe all this happened to me because I was always a communist Marxist, anti-white, and saw myself as black because I saw myself as Jewish. And maybe this was punishment. Who knows? But that's what my grandpa would say, your consciousness kind of creates your reality. And maybe that's what this is, all this punishment that happened to me, all this terrible stuff. Maybe it was because of that, because I was a communist Marxist. My grandpa would say, because I expressed dualistic software, I was anti-white. I had a predatory prey antagonism toward white people because I saw myself as Jewish. But, maybe it was my karma. Who knows? But anyways, I go live with my grandpa. And my grandpa's, just teaching me like, oh, what you really want is independence. And then I end up living with my friend to farm. But I'm calling my mom because in my mind, like my shot's still messed up. My dad told me to do the wrong thing. So now I'm doing the wrong thing practicing. So then I would go back and forth living with my grandpa and living with my parents. So like every once in a while, I'd stay with my grandpa in Malibu. And then I'd go back to my parents. But Like I said, my dad would help me, and he'd be shooting me, and he'd be like, your shot looks terrible, and like I said, sometimes he would just pass to me, and I think I would start shooting a little better, and my dad would be like, see, you're shooting good. What's the deal? You're shooting good now. It's all because of me. I must be because of me. No, my dad probably, no, it's because he was passing to me, and if he's passing me, I'm going to be moving into it naturally. But then I would go back to picking the ball off of the shoot away rack, and my dad would be like, I know this is exactly what happened. My dad would be like, what the hell's going on? You're shooting square. It's because I'm picking the ball off the rack, and you can't shoot right doing that. So my dad would be like, what's going on? Oh, you fucking suck. I give up every time I fix your shot. It goes back to being bad. In my opinion, my dad was the one who messed me up, and it was mainly because of the shoot away machine. If it wasn't for the shoot away machine, none of it would have happened. None of it would have happened. I would have just been shooting natural and moving into shots natural, and everything would have been good. But because of the shooting machine, it was messing me up. So then I go back to living with my grandpa. But then I'd be like, Dad, I'd call my mom and dad, Mom, can I come back home? My mom would be like, no, you can't come back home. You need to be independent. What are you, 16, 17 years old? You need your fucking dad, you little pussy? You little bitch? You need your dad? I'd be like, Mom, please, I want to come home. Can we at least leave on a good note? Mom, I love you. No, I fucking hate you. Bye. She wouldn't say bye. She just hang up on me. So this is where, then my grandpa's like, Ryan, you can't make things happen. If your dad decides that he doesn't want to shoot with you now, you just have to accept it. You have to accept bad calls, If someone makes bad calls, you have to accept it. And you just, because if you don't accept it, that's self-confirmatory, because then it leads to argument, and argument is self-confirmatory. It confirms the illusion of the separate self, and there is no self. So my grandpa, and my grandpa's right. My grandpa had amazing teachings, but he misdiagnosed the problem. He thought there was something wrong with me, and I'll get to this. He didn't know it was a shoot-away machine. And if it wasn't for the shoot-away machine, none of this would have happened. He thought there was something wrong with me, and then I was trying to make things happen. So he's like, Ryan, you're just trying to make things happen. You can't make things happen. Everything is one. Just trust. You can't make things happen. But I needed my dad's help, and I didn't know what was wrong with my shot. I didn't know it was a shoot-away machine, and it was a shoot-away machine, and it was my dad. My dad was telling me to do the wrong thing, but I didn't know that. I'm in high school. I didn't know my dad messed up my shot, and I felt like I needed my dad. And my dad made me feel like I needed him. Because my whole life, my dad helped me with my shot. So, it was a tragic situation, as I said. So then I'm living with my friend Afam, and I'm calling my mom and dad like, Mom, can I please see Dad? I need help. Can I shoot with Dad? I want to come back home. But Mom's like, you can't make things happen, Ryan. You can't force things. Everything is just fine. Everything is just fine. Because she'd memorize everything that my grandpa would say. But she's like, you little bitch. Everything's fine, you fucking pussy. What are you, 17 years old? You need your dad, you little pussy? That's the way my mom would talk to me. And I remember it became abusive, even to the point where I remember one time I was at my house. And, me and my dad got in an argument with my shot. My dad's like, you fucking suck. And I'm like, Dad, I need your help. And then my dad's like, no, you fucking suck. I give up. And then I was going to the bathroom. And I was upset with my dad, and my mom came in and she started punching me. As I'm going to the bathroom, my mom started punching me. This is the type of abuse that started to happen. And then, as I said, my dad would start abusing me. So then I'd be like, Dad, come on. And then my dad would grab me, throw me to the ground. Abuse started happening. I was starting to come to school with black eyes. My friend Ronaldo's like, Ryan, is your dad beating you up? And I'm like, and I never told anybody. I remember because I didn't want my dad to get in trouble, because I felt like I needed my dad for help with my shot. So I remember one time I went up to my grandpa's house. This is after my dad beat me up. I walk up to my grandpa's house. My grandpa lived like five minutes away. This is my other grandpa. This is my mom's dad. And my grandpa saw that I had a black eye. And my grandpa said, Ryan, is your dad beating you up? And I said, and I didn't say anything because I didn't want my dad to get in trouble. So then my grandpa was like, I'm calling the police. He said, and my grandpa didn't like my dad. My grandpa was like, you're way smarter than your dad. Your dad's a piece of shit. My grandpa didn't like my dad. He didn't say my dad's a piece of shit. My grandpa wasn't a piece of shit he didn't cuss like my mom and dad. But my grandpa's like, I'm calling the police. He said, I remember my grandpa told me, he's like, you're way smarter than your dad. Your dad has problems. He was like, I'm calling the police. Your dad needs to go to jail. Then I was like, Grandpa, don't do it. I was like, Grandpa, please don't do it. Because I needed my dad to help me fix my shot. That's the way it was. So like, Grandpa, please. My grandpa's like, no, I'm calling the police. I was like, no, Grandpa, no, please. He's not beating me up. Everything's fine. Because I felt like I needed my dad. I felt like I needed his help. But I didn't know that my dad was actually the one who was messing up my shot. I'm young. I didn't know much about basketball at that time. I was always unconscious. That's why I was so good. So that's what's happening. But then my grandpa comes, my dad's dad comes in. That was my dad's mom who wanted to call police on my dad. My dad's dad comes in, you're like, Ryan, what Ryan really wants is independence. That's what he really wants. Everyone really just wants independence and to be in the flow. So my mom and dad are like, okay, make him independent. Get him out of our lives. Have him live with you. Get him out of our lives. We don't want anything to do with him. Make him independent. So then I live with my grandpa. And that's going to carry on to what happens next in the story. So I'll get to when I discover the quadrant model and what happens next in the story.